Next we'll have Kate. Let me add Kate. Second. Hey, Kate.
Hi everyone.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. I actually haven't done any schematics yet. I only use them, so that's why I had a question.
Nice.
So my presentation is going to be about clean code. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yep.
And stop me at any time if you have questions, because I'm going to try to make it as as light as possible. Because I was planning to let's see where. I want to make sure my notes are on my other screen. 1 second. No, not there. Okay, over here. All right. Sorry, I'm also I'm on a new computer, so it's a little bit. All right.
All right.
So
you got the stage.
I got it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. So the reason I came up with this talk was kind of a pain-driven. I started on the project where I encountered this code, and basically based on my experience and working on like a holiday one weekend, I figured if I share that with everybody or with anybody, it might help someone have clean code on their project. So I'm going to talk about how to use container presenter pattern. And at the end, we will do some refactoring of, well, actually, I was planning to do refactoring of the code, of bad code, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough time. I have refactored that bad code last night, or so we'll either do a little bit refactoring and just go through the changes. We'll see how much time we have. So that will be towards the end. So when we do refactor the code, we will have smaller templates. When we have smaller templates, it's going to be easier to make changes. And in my experience, it actually produces high quality code, which is just easier to test, especially when you write unit tests. So if you if you're asked to if you have to deliver a product and you're writing unit tests and your templates are small, hopefully your product is going to be creating less tech debt. And usually I call refactoring is like cleaning your house. You want to keep your house clean. Usually all it costs to do that in the house is just, your time. Not too much money, but on the project, it's usually, product owners that have to pay for tech debt, so it's not the same. But let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm a full stack developer. I've been programming for over 20 years. I currently work on a project for a client, and I work on the portal for performance and compensations team. And we work on Angular 8, and the next project is Angular 9. I've started with Angular about 5 years ago and just kind of fell in love with it. I'm trying to keep my consulting to just Angular right now, even though I have to do backend stuff too. Therefore, I'm a full stack developer. I'm also a mother of 5 children. One of my children is all grown up, so I call it in production, and 4 kind of still in development. So I stay busy with that, and and continue to work on my career, and I can't stop doing that because I really enjoy it. So I'm teaching my kids to maybe take it after their mother and father, because we're both in IT, and hopefully one day they'll be as good as their mom and dad. We'll see how it goes. And I have a small group of women. I want to give a shout out. I think we have one of the ladies from my Facebook group where I do a little mentoring for them to break out into programming. I have 3 daughters, and encourage them to learn how to program. So hopefully this talk will kind of give them some hope that this is possible, even though I'm not great at presenting, I don't think. But let me just go through the summary of this talk. We are going to talk about some of the problems that that bad code presents, not bad code, but when you don't have clean code, basically, and some of the anti-patterns that we would like to avoid when we are writing the application. So those common problems actually prevent you from have quick turnaround on your development. So specifically, container presenter patterns been helpful in my everyday job. I usually try to see where I can break up some code and have smaller components, and I will show you. Oh, so about state management. The reason I kind of started this this whole talk is I actually implemented NGRX into our application, and I just want to say that before that's kind of what I had to do before actually adding NGRX into our application. I had to do a lot of cleanup and refactoring on some of the big components that we had, just because it was just too hard to add something as complex as NGRX. So if you never add state management to your application, at least having clean code and using this pattern will give you huge gains. So the first anti-pattern I want to talk about is single responsibility violation. It's basically, the rule is objects should only have one reason to change. It should be small with minimum number of dependencies. We also want to check that dependencies do not break, the dependencies to the component don't break this principle, and there's no tight coupling. The way to spot this anti-pattern is when your component is too large. It has a lot of methods, and it could change in many different ways. For example, if user is interacting with the component, or there's some API changes, and your DOM is changing based on that. Another way is if you don't have your application broken down into features, and you basically don't have any feature modules, and your app module, app components have everything in it. So we will kind of go through how to solve this issue by breaking down the large component that we'll see in my demo, and we'll have the parent component, which will be the container, and the presenter will be the child. So I had a little analogy here on kids cleaning the room. I think I forgot what it was, but basically. We want to make sure that when they clean the room, it's they don't get distracted and just keep on task and do it, keep their clean room by just concentrating on what mom told them to do. So that's the single responsibility violation. The next one is nested logic structure. This anti-pattern is common also in large template components, and when you have this this arrow look of your ifs, basically conditional operators are used to display like different pieces of HTML in your code. So it's going to be really hard to understand the context of the template when you have something like this, and the same thing in your TypeScript code, right? So you want to avoid it as much as possible. So it's extracting logic structures out into separate components. So we want to use structural directives like ng container will help with clean code, and also with readability of your code. So my analogy here is, let's imagine the first minion is me, right? And I tell my oldest daughter, please take out the garbage, and she goes, sure. And then I come back to her and I go, honey, the garbage is still not taken out. And she goes, well, I told, my younger sister. And the younger sister goes, well, I told the younger sister. So basically my garbage is still not taken out. So no, we don't want that. So basically, that one person has to take care of it. The next one is hidden state. This anti-pattern often showed itself when there's no explicit state object. Usually it's kind of fixed with NGRX, but doesn't have to. You don't have to use NGRX. You can just use service with this object. Or if your component manages its own state by calculating on the fly based on the input from like an API or something like that. So at this time you would want to extract state into a service or NGRX, like I said, or so those are the two ones how I would solve it, and I will show it in my demo. And so I have a little meme here. This kid is hiding. Yeah, so hidden state, and then my analogy will be, kid changing a code on my door lock, and no one can get in, or they lost the key to the house, and or they, instead of washing the dishes, they hide it in the room, and it's not done at the end. So so that's going to be the solution to all of these issues. Hopefully will be the container presenter pattern, and it benefited me to write clean code. It will also it helps you identify beginning of a feature with a smart component or a container component, which has a clear set of responsibilities. Your presenter component will be, we call it dumb. In many cases, it will also be a reusable component. And hopefully you will write unit tests, and it will be much easier to unit test. So let's see. I was trying to find a clean pic. Like I wanted to take a picture of a clean room for my kids. It was not a good day for me, so I just stole it from the internet. This looks clean. This room looks clean. Okay. All right. So the container, I just want to go through what the container is and what a presenter is, and then we'll go into the code. So the container is basically, so in an application, that's going to be like your top level component. In my analogy, the parent would be the top level component, and children will be like the feature, or a feature. Right? So if you have multiple parents, each parent will be like a feature in the application, and children will be your presenter components. But your container component will interact with API services. It will have in its constructor, it will have reference to the service, or if you're using NGRX, it will have NGRX store in the constructor. I like to use Facade. I don't know how everybody feels about it. I think Facade just helps me to encapsulate the NGRX out of my container components, just so my unit tests become even simpler. I don't have to mock the store. So the data is passed to the child component via the input binding, and the event emitters will send the events back to the container from the child or presenter components. And then container will decide what to do with those events, and act accordingly if it needs to call an API or do other data changes. That's what the container is responsible for. All right, and going to the presenter. So going back to the parent analogy, so the presenter is basically your child that you told your child to set up the table for breakfast. Hopefully they'll know how to set it up for dinner too, right? So you just tell them what to do. And they just report back. So in the application, presenter component will receive the data from the container component, and it will just know how to display it, make it pretty. All of the events are raised back to the parent via the event emitters. And it's, Yeah, so the decisions are, it depends what kind of decisions. If they're simple ones that you can keep within a presenter, you can do that. But if it needs to decide to call an API or not, then you want to raise an event and let the container decide on that. It could be reusable and flexible. And so if you have like a fancy drop down with like a multi-select control, you could probably extract it out into just a presenter and have it reused throughout your application. I think I have a meme for this too. Oh, hey mom, I can have it. Oh, no, it's not here. Okay. All right. So conclusion. So hopefully when you find this pattern useful, and when you follow it, you end up with cleaner code. Your components are small. You had followed single responsibility principle. You have abstracted some logic away from your components into services. And you just end up with clean code and everybody's happy. And next we will go through the code, which will be /demo. And hopefully it'll be easier than getting ready for this meetup. Okay. Let's see. And my demo is actually inspired by Alex. We decided to do a little quick demo on Toronto's Beaver tails, and that's so I'm doing a little Beaver tail trail stop, not a shop but a stop, and I'm not getting any feedback. Alex, I don't see you if you want to jump in and.
Yay!
All right, I'm glad you're happy because I didn't get any feedback on any of my presentations. So I appreciate you coming back. All right, so I've created stack Blitz for it just because I wanted to, to show it running with the code kind of side by side. Let me know if you see it well, or do I need to kind of blow it up a little bit more? Because I don't think I have time to.
Just a bit, maybe.
Yeah, I don't really have time to code, so I'll just switch between the stack Blitz and show you the difference. Okay,
That's great.
You through. All right, beautiful. All right, so this is a little shop of whatever the beaver tails are. I guess my daughter picked the charm. She really liked all of the Lucky Charms on it when she walked in when I was doing this demo. And it's pretty simple. It has like a little cart at the top. You click buy on it, and the number is incremented. And at the bottom, there is like a little terminal that shows everything that you just clicked on. So the interaction is to add it to the cart. So everything just keeps getting added to this cart and to the top, right? And another interaction is if you click on the cart, it disappears. Okay, so there's really just two things that are happening in two places that it gets displayed on. So the cart and the bottom little terminal. So if you you know what I can do is I could probably paste this into the YouTube so you guys can, if it makes sense to look at it yourself. All right, so this I have an app component. Let's see, this one is the Refactor one. So we want to go to this one. So this is the one that has one component, and let's check out how many lines of code I have here. I have 170.
Can you zoom the code a little bit? Thank you.
All right, there we go. All right, so this one has 171 lines of code. So we're gonna, when we switch to the Refactor branch, we'll kind of see how it got smaller. So I have a bunch of things hard coded here. There's each beaver tail is kind of its own mat cart, and it's like all of the data is hard coded. So when I refactor it, what I want to do is I want to take this div and make it into a list component, and I could probably do this piece right here also be part of my list. And this piece right here, which is the top toolbar, I can make it into its own header component. And the bottom where the terminal is, I will make it into another, whoops, sorry. There's like a little cloud that comes with the Angular 10. And this is Angular 10, so this will be a third component will kind of show then the items. And there is interaction is with this remove index. There's the component itself just has, it has two methods and the list that just represents the cart. So when we go, we're going to switch back to the refactor branch, just kind of to speed it up because we're running out of time. So right now, so now we had 170 something lines of code. Now we have 17 lines of code in our app component. And that's pretty good. I mean, if my kids clean up their room and make the room that much cleaner than before, I'll be happy. So the app header has input total, and the cart items is an observable, and it shows the length up on the top. And the app list component has a list that's also async piped into the input list. It's listening for the add event. The cart down below is listening so for the cart it's listening for the remove event. And let's look real quick. We're going to look at app component. So app component has data service. I will go through it real quick in a second. And those are the two methods that it's listening to from the child component. So now our app component is the container, and all of the pieces that we have abstracted out into our child components are our presenter components. And before we go into these components, let's take a look at the service. So I created a data service that gets its data from a JSON file right now. And it's using a pool from this get data to get the items from this test data JSON. So it basically has all of the metadata. And it has two methods that because we know our application does two things. It adds to cart and it removes from the cart. And we are using behavior subject in this case for our cart items. And the only thing that we expose to the outside world for the data service are the methods, the three methods that we want to be used, and our internals are completely hidden, right? So the list of data you can only get it from this get data method. And if you wanted to change the internals, so our state is completely within this service. So the cart items is communicated out into containers via the behavior subject. It's initially set to empty. I don't have a type for my Beaver tail, so it's just set to any, but ideally you would want to have an object with all the properties on it. And it creates a new array of items every time you add to cart or remove from cart. So you have a new what do you call it? A new object of that array every time. So let's look at real quick at the list. So pretty simple here, but so if you look at the list, we have a change detection set to Onpush because all the changes to this template happen through the input and output. So there's really no need to keep the default change detection here. And so this is the list, and it has just one net card, and there's an ng4 for the input list here, and it has this add method that goes out into the parent container component, and pretty much the same thing with the cart. So the cart has removed the HTML over here, And we have input, output, and one method that it emits the event with the index. And that's how it gets removed from the list. And the header, same thing. It's even simpler. It has just a total, because that's the only thing it needs to update at the top. So if we just go ahead and buy something, make it a little bit smaller. Make it smaller. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we can continue to buy something. Let's see, our 5 is still a 5, 6, 7. And we can remove it, so everything still works. What we get out of it is we have cleaner code. Our app component is much smaller, our template is much smaller, so much easier to maintain. One day I'll write some unit tests for it. And our data service has all of the logic in it. And that's pretty much all I have. Any questions?
All right, let's see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions for Kate? Those are really nice beaver tails, by the way.
I couldn't stop, like, keep adding them. They're so awesome. It's there are just so many more different ones there. Like, I better stop at 9.
All right, we have a question from CD. Why we should have Onpush change detection for the presenter like list? Can you explain more?
So basically, you are telling the Angular not to worry about checking the state of your objects, if they're changed or not. You're telling it, hey, I will change a reference to all of my objects within the template, and that's the only time you want to update the template. So and it's for better performance. Unless there's another reason, Alex. What is, if there is, I might be missing it.
No, in general, Onpush improves the performance if we are saying that, hey, don't check this component's views unless any of the inputs are changed, or unless it was told otherwise with the async pipe, right, that has the detect change and all that stuff, mark for check and all that stuff. So yep. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, Brandon has a question, actually.
Yeah,
a good one.
Do you use facades for features that don't use interacts also?
Actually, I started adding facades to anything, like, that has more than one service for a container component. That actually gives me kind of like a door a little bit open for when somebody agrees to add NGRX to that feature. Then that's why I can quietly change it, swap it, and nobody notices it. But yeah, I like to use facade a lot.
Yeah, Lars said it's a very trick question. I agree. Do you? Yes. Can you also share the stack list when you have an opportunity to do so? We'll probably put them in the description after as well, so everybody has a faster access to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. And Balaya says that he wishes there was a flag that could be set during NGNU, which would create components with Onpush. You can actually probably use some of the schematics for it, right? So we can work with that, right? And basically create your own schematics that does the Onpush by default.
True.
Brendan says not a trick. All right. Let's see. Are there any questions? I've heard this. There could be a live question from Eugene coming, but looks like there's not a question from Eugene coming.
I don't know. Yeah. I see there's another question. What are the best practices in code cleanup?
Yes, that's right.
You know what? I think it's the same as if you're cleaning your house. Do one room at a time.
The house kids analogies are definitely the best. That's what was the comma first time we were presenting Angular. Was it Angular Air?
Oh, Houston.
Yeah. Oh, Houston. That's right. Brendan's asking, what's your rule of thumb for a component that's too big?
Rule of thumb. Probably one-page scroll kind of thing. Like if it scrolls beyond one page, then it's too big. That's pretty easy to kind of visual.
Yeah. I see Lars is suggesting around 100 lines of code. I typically go with that one kind of as well as close to 2, maybe 3. It's close to 3 scrolls. Then I would say it's, you know, getting too big, but yeah. One view is kind of nice. All right. Awesome. Looks like we don't have any other questions. Thank you so much, Kate. I don't know if you have to run or you can stay. We'll see. Maybe people get other questions as well. But thank you so much.